Hello, and welcome to this presentation on A Brief History of Childhood. First of all, let us attempt to answer the question, what is childhood? The answer to this important question would vary according to the cultural context and historical period. However, many today would agree that childhood is a period of the human lifespan between infancy and adolescence, extending from ages 1 to 2 to 12 or 13 years. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, defines childhood as a time for children to be in school and at play, to grow strong and confident with the love and encouragement of their family and an extended community of caring adults. It is a precious time in which children should live free from fear, be safe from violence, and protected from abuse and exploitation. Sadly, this has definitely not been the case for many children, both past and present. There are major factors that have determined the quality of childhood in different cultures throughout the ages. One major contributor to an individual's childhood experience is that of economics. For example, many poor children in Victorian England led wretched lives. Some began working in coal mines from as young as 5. It is reported that there were children who woke up as early as 2 a.m. to walk to the mines and begin work at 3 a.m. In extreme cases, they worked for more than 12 hours daily. One witness testifies, children were chained, belted, harnessed like dogs in a go-kart, sometimes half naked. They would be crawling upon their hands and feet and dragging heavy loads behind them. The constant physical toil and exertion, as well as the frequent stooping and crawling in the mines, often stunted children's growth. Some suffered physical impairment, deformities, some lost limbs or were crushed in or under machinery. Others were burned. Further, those repeatedly inhaling great amounts of coal dust, fumes, and toxins in the mines ended up with very serious lung diseases. I now invite you to watch this video that presents another scenario of poor children in industrial Britain. Conditions were undoubtedly very grim for some of these children back then. We must not forget that child labour continues to be a reality today as well. In 2017, in Mali, Benin, Chad, and Guinea-Bissau, over 50% of children aged 5 and above were working. Poverty and lack of schools are considered the primary cause of child labour. Globally, the incidence of child labour is decreasing, but there are still millions of children working today all over the world. Of course, there were children who went to school during Victorian times. However, compassion was not always the dominant feature of these institutions. Corporal punishment was not uncommon then. In fact, in many parts of the world, it continued throughout most of the 20th century. There were those who were certainly relieved when corporal punishment was prohibited in all state-supported education in 1986. The prohibition was extended to cover private schools in England and Wales in 1998, in Scotland in 2000, and in Northern Ireland in 2003. It is also worth noting that at the beginning of the 1800s, children were punished in the same way as adults, sent to the same prisons, sometimes transported to Australia, whipped, or even sentenced to death. In 1814, 5 child criminals under the age of 14 were hanged at the Old Bailey, the youngest being 8 years old. As previously mentioned, economics was and continues to be a major molding influence of childhood. Of course, more privileged children inhabited a different world. There are huge parallels in the experiences of rich and poor children in different cultures throughout the ages. This is a scene from the 16th century novel Lazarillo de Tormes. Lazarillo's mother, who was a widow, was too poor to look after her son, so she entrusted his care to a blind beggar. Now, this blind beggar was very mean to Lazarillo, and Lazarillo often went hungry. After a while, in desperation, Lazarillo had to resort to ingenious ways to get food. In this scene, he got so desperate that he ate a sausage that was meant for the blind man. Lazarillo initially denied any wrongdoing, but the blind man was convinced that he'd eaten the sausage. So enraged, he grabbed Lazarillo, forced his mouth open, and stuck his nose in Lazarillo's mouth. He sniffed his breath to ascertain the truth. On this occasion, as in others, Lazarillo was brutally beaten. Another factor that affects childhood is that of war. This is a scene from Otro Árbol de Guernica by Luis de Castresana. Santi and his younger sister leave Spain during the Spanish Civil War for their own protection. They end up in Belgium and spend years separated from their parents. Santi, being the older sibling, now has to assume an adult role to look after his younger sister. Many would argue that war robs children of their childhood. There are still parts of the world today where children are living daily with the gruesome consequences of war. While our lives are not perfect, I'm sure that you would agree that we do enjoy multiple blessings. Perhaps we can become more determined to adopt a more thankful attitude for the many resources at our disposal. and make good use of them to build up our family, community, and wider world. Thank you for listening.